Hello everyone. Now this time what I'm going to do is take a closer look at the 4MS Quad Clock. I'm using its own internal tap clock to drive it. Normally I would probably be using the Grid's clock or the CLX or something else. But for the purposes of this demonstration, only the 4MS is generating tempo. Now, and they're all set to 0, so they are repeating the master clock. First channel is actually, I'm multing that one, so it is driving the clock divider over here and also triggering Basteltikik. The next channel is triggering 2 HP hat. This channel is triggering mutable plats in snare drum mode. And the last channel is going over here to Bastel skis, which I am feeding a metallic noise from the Bastel noise square. And they are all firing together. Not very interesting. Well, clearly you have these multiply and divide knobs. Let's divide the bass drum by 2. Let's also divide the snare drum by 2. And let's divide that metallic noise by 3. Well, it's already more interesting than it was. Now let's see. If we want that snare drum to maybe not be hitting right in lockstep with the bass, what do we do? Well, there's a couple of things we could try. This has a reset input, and you can use that to tell this channel. Each channel has one. You can use it to tell this channel to start the cycle at a different time. In other words, to get it to fire off the beat. But you have to send a gate or a trigger to that. So you need a trigger source, perhaps another clock. That would be difficult to do. You could use your keyboard controller, because when you press a key, it outputs a gate. Do that. If you have a steady voltage source and a manual switch, I almost have that. I'm going to use, for the sake of demonstration, I will use the tonic, because it's got these manual buttons that cause it to output a gate when they are pressed. So I plug my cable to the gate output of tonic to the reset input of this channel. I wait for the opportune moment. I pressed the button, and now you can hear the snare drum is firing at a different time, off the beat. It's still locked to the tempo, but it's out of phase. I don't know, it just sounds kind of sloppy. Well, now what do I do? How do I get it back in sync? Well, I've got this clock div over here that's running divisions of the bass drum clock. So in theory, all I should have to do is plug into one of the channels that's not on, and then when that output flips to on, it resets that channel back in sync with your main tempo. That's why I had that clock divider running. Now we've got our snare drum back on track, but what can we do? If I had a logic module, which I don't, I should get one of those. If I had a logic module, I could invert that output. There may be a way to do it without a logic module. If I unplug that from the plats and plug it into a CV Platts is hissing because it gives a constant output if there's no trigger patched to the trigger input. Now it's gone quiet again. If I invert that gate so it positive becomes negative and then apply a positive offset, then I get it firing at exactly the opposite time. That might be useful. It would have been easier to do with a logic module, just a simple NOT gate that would turn off into on. But you can do it if you have one of these attenuversion offset type of modules. They're pretty common. You really should have one, maybe two. Very useful. They're like VCAs. Can hardly ever have enough. Now let's see. I want my hat ratcheting, doing this kind of thing. And I don't want to have to sit here and twiddle that knob manually because that's annoying. Well, there is a CV input there, so let's connect an LFO and plug it into that CV input. Holy moly, that's too much. We need to attenuate that thing. So let me plug this into a channel of shades to attenuate it. Take the output from shades, plug that into my CV input, and then turn shades up to give us just a little bit of LFO. Turn it up until we start hearing the effect. Nice. But I'm noticing that the negative side of the LFO is pulling me down from multiplication to division, and it's slowing down the beat. There's a couple of ways to solve that. You could just use a unipolar modulation source that's only positive. I could rectify my LFO using kinks to force it to become only positive. But I think what I'm going to do is just adjust this knob, because wherever you have this knob set is going to be your 0 point. So I will speed it up a little bit to compensate for that loss on the negative side. I can live with that. Sounds okay. Let's do something. Well, you know what? I don't know if I can live with that, because the LFO isn't running at a rate that bears any relation to this rhythm. It's just sort of happening when it wants to, and I could fiddle around with the LFO and tweak and twiddle until finally, after who knows how long, I might get it running at a speed where it locks in meaningfully with the rhythm that I have running here. But there's a much, much easier way to do that. Let me take that LFO out of there. I've got this clock divider running over here that's going to give me gates that happen at meaningful times and last for meaningful durations. I'll take the divide by 4. I think I will. Since that's positive voltage only, I'll turn my knob back down 1 click. And now, the ratcheting is happening like every 4 beats. It ratchets for a measure. It doesn't ratchet for a measure. Amazing. Easy. Instantaneous gratification. Now I could still use that LFO. Maybe mess with that channel. Let's try it. Another channel of shades. Plug that in there. Turn it up a bit. Now it sounds a little spastic. But believe it or not, those events are synced with the master tempo. Anyway, this is just a hokey little demonstration of what I've been doing, and you really are only limited by your imagination. I surprise myself just about every time I sit down at this console. It's been a lot of fun, and I have to thank my patrons because they paid for the majority of this stuff. Doesn't cost anything to like and subscribe, which I hope you'll do if you enjoyed this. I have lots of content posted already on my channel, and I plan to post more. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.